how many people do you think have not joined our church because of polygamy? How many members do you think we might actually have today if that was never a part of our history? Can you imagine?
One will say, well, I haven't looked into polygamy myself, but I trust my colleagues who have. I'm like, so this is how, false traditions get passed down. We need a little quality check once in a while and step back and say, what am I depending on and is it correct?
I have found that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has more truth than everybody else. But that doesn't mean that, number one, they have a lock on truth. And that also doesn't mean that the narratives they're spinning or whatever their historians are saying are also truth.
I can't abide the horrible stories we tell about beautiful, faithful Emma. Everywhere that the historians talk about Emma, she was a lunatic, She was a thorn in Joseph's side. She finally supposedly agreed to get on board with polygamy briefly and agreed to let him marry 2 sisters at once, which is not the way anyone would dip their toe into the polygamy waters, by the way. And then by the end of that night, she was livid again and chased the sisters out of the home. So she's just this bipolar crazy lady, and it's so sad.
Welcome in here on Zion Media, and I'm so excited for this episode today. We are joined by Karen Hyatt. Many of you have probably seen her on a variety of other podcasts. I believe she was on Steve Pineker's show. She has her own YouTube, and go check her out. I think it's just under her name. Go subscribe, go support her. She's going to be sharing things that you're going to want to know. Even I know some people in my own family have found Karen's story and are starting to follow her. And so we'll put her link in the description so you can find her podcast. I'm also joined by Drea the Bomb. She is the bomb. Could be Book of Mormon, but business operations manager. And she is busy. I have her so busy, not just in Zion Media, but she's found another job with a company called Live, who is one of our sponsors. And you'll see us run ads for Live. Live is here to help men who struggle with pornography. Check out liveinvirtue.com. Okay, so today we're joined by Karen Hyatt, and she has an incredible story. And I want to remind everybody of something as we get into this. For those of you who go to the temple, there's a part in the temple where Satan is there. Peter, James, and John is there, and they're like, so what are you doing here to Satan? And Satan's like, well, I'm teaching the philosophies of men mingled with scripture. And they're like, well, how is this teaching received? And he's like, well, by other people, it's received really well, but these people, they don't seem to accept what is being taught. And then they cast him away. And then they basically, maybe they don't cast him away at that time, but they commend them for their integrity. And so today I am commending Karen for her integrity. Because she has found something that she believes to be true. She has sought it out and done lots of due diligence. And in fact, I need to sit down with her. See, I'm the guy on this polygamy argument that I'm like, I don't really know if Joseph practiced polygamy or not. The historical records kind of all over the place on that. But what I do know and what I am certain of is that, number one, my God doesn't practice polygamy. And number two, in the terrestrial and celestial kingdoms, polygamy's not a thing. And if anybody is seeing polygamy as being a thing, they must be seeing a different degree of the telestial kingdom, because I am certain that polygamy is a thing in the telestial realms, the realms in which we live in right now, and you can find people practicing polygamy. So if you want to think telestial, then you can start thinking polygamy is a thing, and you can think telestial. If you really want to think celestial, you need to eliminate the idea and the concept of polygamy from your ideology completely. Men and women got to eliminate that. You can't give your whole heart to another person if you're setting aside part of it for somebody else. And that's just my opinion. So, Karen, tell us a little bit about yourself, your journey in the church, and tell us a little bit about your story and what's going on. Everybody kind of knows that you've had a disciplinary council. They decided to excommunicate you. So I just want to jump into your story and just hear kind of why you decided to go down this route and how you kind of found this and came to this understanding.
Okay, well, thank you for having me here. I really appreciate it, you guys. Sorry for my voice. I talked a lot yesterday, and I think it took its toll. Um, yeah, if you want me to start it kind of at the beginning real
Yes.
quick. Okay, I joined the church at 17. I had not been looking for a church. I thought that organized religion was a scam. I was like, why would you pay somebody to read you the Bible when you could do it yourself? It didn't make sense to me. But long story short, I did join the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and I had a very immature testimony going in, but after about a year, I really appreciated the treasure that I had in the Book of Mormon, and so I became converted after I was baptized, I would say. So fast forward, I think I just learned about polygamy sort of gradually. You would hear things, or of course, there's the Doctrine and Covenants 132, and
I liked how
y-
she snickers there.
well, it's like so anomalous. It doesn't sound like any other scripture. It's just, but what are you going to do? It's canonized scripture, so you have to accept it as the word of God, apparently. So
And
I was
and
like,
the hard part that I tell people about, it's the only place where it talks about the doctrine of eternal marriage. So eternal families. So it's like if you get rid of that, then it's the only place where we have this concept of an eternal marriage in there.
right, right. So you just you sort of say, well, boy, that sounded not exactly like God usually, but there's harsh things in the Old Testament. And so I just thought, well, all right, I guess he'll help me understand this because seriously, polygamy is the only doctrine that we teach that is morally repugnant, that offends our sense of morality. And so it's just so confusing. So it's like, well, okay, I guess he'll just change my heart or make something clear to me later. And you just sort of trust. And I did trust him implicitly. I knew that I wouldn't get to the other side and be disappointed or sad or anything like that. So I trusted that it would make sense one day. And so let's see, just about 3 years ago, I want to say, I might have my timeline off by a year, but on my YouTube feed here popped up this video from Rob Fotheringham that said, who was the first LDS polygamist, Brigham or Joseph? And I was like, wow, is that a question? Like, I didn't know that was a question. So I watched that, and he had all these receipts. And this is the first time I learned that Doctrine and Covenants 132 was not introduced until 8 years after Joseph's death. So that's pretty important. So here he had all these receipts. I couldn't believe they were real, so I had to look them up. And I've said this many times, he didn't have links to the documents that he shared, but he did have screenshots. So I was there, you could see the little URL. So I'm there squinting at it and typing in, FPQ9 and to check out these documents. And sure enough, they popped up, and here they're from the Joseph Smith Papers Project, totally legitimate sources. And I couldn't believe it. And in 2 hours, I was done. My paradigm had totally shifted. This did not come from God. This did not come from Joseph Smith. What a relief, but not just a relief. It made sense. Finally, like true things should make sense. And it's really embarrassing now that I ever even believed it because we have Alma's instructions, right? How to tell a good seed from a bad seed. He's like, if you plant the seed, we always talk about how if you plant the seed, it will be delicious and it will bear fruit and it'll be so great. But he does mention in there that if the seed doesn't bear fruit and it's not delicious, you should cast it away. So here are millions of members of the church bearing with this horrible feeling that they get when they talk or think about polygamy without connecting it. That's a bad seed.
Guys, the hour of temptation is here. And if you've fallen victim to the temptation, which is pornography, which is the plague of our generation, Live has a solution. Go to liveinvirtue.com. They have a 95% success rate in helping men overcome their pornography struggle. This program is geared towards Latter-day Saint men. So if you're a priesthood holder and you've struggled with this and you finally want to overcome it, go to liveinvirtue.com, book a breakthrough call. It's free, and get enrolled in Live today. Join the movement. I've had people argue with me and they're like, well, it's because of polygamy that they were able to expand the church. And I said, how many people do you think have not joined our church because of polygamy? How many members do you think we might actually have today if that was never a part of our history? Can you imagine?
Yes.
So here everybody's trying to justify and rationalize, but I bet we would have 170 million members of that church if we didn't have to go over that with people. You know how many investigators I lost because of that on my mission? And I guarantee you there's other missionaries out there that are like, as soon as people found that out or they Googled it or they heard about it from somewhere, they were out. They wanted nothing to do with that. And so I always tell people there would be way more members of this church today if this was never a part of what we ever did or practiced. And the idea that you think that it has created whatever, God made it work. And I'm a product of a polygamous line. I got polygamists in my line through my pioneer heritage, and I'm grateful for them, and I honor them, and I appreciate them. I believe they were doing what they thought the Lord wanted them to do because they were good followers and they were following the prophet. But I guarantee you when they got to the other side, or even right now, they're scratching their head going like, oh, I think we kind of messed that up. Okay, keep going.
Oh, I
Sorry.
think they're cheering for us. I think they're so happy that this is coming to light because they suffered, and obviously, especially the women, but lots of the men too. They suffered tremendously under polygamy, and it is so sad. The idea that polygamy produces more children has been debunked multiple times. The number of children on average that a polygamous woman has is lower than the
Right.
number of children that a monogamous woman has back in the 1800s. And it's been, I mean, that's documented. So the other thing I hear is, well, if it hadn't been for my polygamous ancestors, I wouldn't be here.
Right.
And that one takes about 10 seconds to me. All you have to do is say, what if your great grandma had been violated? Like, you don't have to embrace the method employed for your ancestors to get here and for you to get here. That's not a thing. We don't,
God would have found a path for you to get here either way.
of
So
course. And so it has nothing to do with that. And so anyway, yeah, thank you for pointing that out. There's just no question. You're right. And you can read diaries of like Fanny Stenhouse. If you haven't read Fanny Stenhouse's autobiography, that's a must. It's called Tell It All. A woman's life in polygamy. I think that's the title. And it is fantastic. It is her firsthand recollections of, she was on fire when she joined the church in England. She was so excited. Her husband was a fantastic missionary, and they were all in. And long story short, they came to Utah, and it was just a different church, and it was painful. And her husband had promised her that he would never take another wife because that wasn't, polygamy had not been introduced when she first joined the church in 1848. But it was introduced, 5 years later. So anyway, in Utah, she saw the pain, she saw how horrible it was, how it made good men bad. And
totally.
anyway, it took them a long time, but finally they were like, peace out. And it's just so painful.
Well,
But
and we have the scriptures to like, how did it go for Abraham?
yeah,
How did it go for Jacob? How did it go for David? Like we know how it went. And the first person to even have the idea is a descendant of Cain named Lamech. I mean, we can't even get 5 chapters into the Old Testament without it being clear to us. Like I've known this since 2014. This isn't something I just came to, but in 2012, I was like, something doesn't add up here. And I had this thought in my mind that I'm like, it never works out, but maybe I don't understand. So I just went to the scriptures and I said, ask and you shall receive. I spent 2 years. I read the entire Old Testament purely on the idea and premise to, is polygamy a true principle in the higher kingdoms? Because life eternal is to know God. John 17:3. Like, eternal life depends on knowing God. And I wanted to know, is God a polygamist? That was my question, because I didn't know. And here's what I found is, number one, my God is not a polygamist, but there are other gods that are. And so that's what becomes confusing, because there are other gods out there that have polygamy as part of their thing. And so somebody may be talking and thinking that their God, and it could be their God. It depends on who they worship. I know exactly who I worship, and I know he and my mother, that's it. And that was an important thing for me to come to and understand. And it's interesting because I wasn't really in the debate of, who started it or who practiced it, which is the debate today. And I would love to sit with people because, I'm still, it's hard to get past the historical record for me. It's hard for me, like Oliver Cowdery, for me, like something was going on. Why did that guy get X'd? He was speaking out against some stuff that he didn't like. And so I kind of side with Oliver Cowdery. Oliver Cowdery didn't like what was going on. He spoke up. They excommunicated Oliver Cowdery. So let me remind everybody that the guy that helped translate the Book of Mormon and bring it forth, the guy that received the laying on of hands from John the Baptist, Peter, James, and John, and was visited by the angel of the Lord that calls himself thy fellow servant, this is Oliver Cowdery. He got excommunicated. So let me just remind everybody, like, who's been excommunicated in this church. Oliver Cowdery was like Joseph Smith, and then Oliver Cowdery would have been like right there until he got X'd.
Right. I actually did want to speak to that, so I'm glad you brought it up. Yeah, I heard you talking about that the other day, and so let me correct a couple things and just see if and you can incorporate it into the puzzle, as you wish. And this is what I do actually, is just provide information, and then people can take it or leave it or incorporate it or not. But so it wasn't Oliver Cowdery's journal entry that we have where he talks about
The filthy,
dirty,
nasty
the dirty,
scrape or whatever.
filthy
Okay.
affair. Okay, so it's
Whose is that? So, like I said, I don't know. I am guilty
Yeah.
of like I've never done, because my beef
or something.
is not with who.
Mhm,
My beef
exactly.
is with the thing, the
And
principle,
God.
the
Just
doctrine,
want to
right?
know it. Yeah, number one is knowing it didn't come from God. That's
Yes. Like that's for me the most important thing. Debating historical record. Like, I would love to sit down, Karen, with you and whoever else that's done all the work and just hear what it is you have to say. Because I'm just getting like bits and pieces from people that quite possibly could be liars, right? Historians. Like
right.
literally, Brother Turley lives in my stake. When I went to
Oh,
Brother Turley's house and talked to him about my view of polygamy, it didn't go so well for me. And I haven't been back to his house. So he didn't like what I had to say. So I'm just like, okay, these historians are creating a narrative. And we're seeing that not just happen in our church. I mean, this is happening in our government and in history altogether. They are reshaping narratives. So there's no doubt to me that something's going on there. So if you have a group that you want to like sit down and go through I would love to and learn. And I'm like, trust me, I'm like the most coachable player on the planet. And I would love to just see what everybody else has, because I've been the unfortunate product of just trusting historians until recently, that I'm like, I don't know if I trust these people. I don't know if 9/11 went down the way they said it did. I don't know if JFK went down the way they said it did. I got this wife she's like into the conspiracy. So she's always telling me, and I'm just like, I'm just reading Isaiah here. I'm just trying to understand the scripture. So I would love to get into the historical record, and I'm not opposed if somebody can show me like exactly where and who and how and what. I would love to do that. Now, Karen, I'm going to drop a little bit of a bomb on this episode. I'm going to send you this. I'm going to tell a story here. And
okay, let's wrap up. This is very fast though. Let's wrap up the Oliver Cowdery. Okay. And so many things that you just said. So I I don't know if your viewers know that I made a 2-hour documentary called Woe Unto You Scribes, The Hidden History of Polygamy,
Yes.
exactly for the purpose you're saying, because I thought there were so many things that we ought to know these fundamental historical facts before we make up our minds. And so, um, I don't need anybody to believe as I do, but they sure need to see these original documents that the historians absolutely don't share. And when you say you've trusted the historians, you want to know who else has trusted the historians? The historians. So I meet with them one-on-one whenever I can. I've met with about 10 or 12 scholars and historians in the church. And I have been shocked at how many times one will say, well, I haven't looked into polygamy myself, but I trust my colleagues who have. I'm like, ah. So this is how, false traditions get passed down. We need a little QC. We need a little quality check once in a while and step back and say, what am I depending on? And is it correct? So I also turned it into a book because I thought there was zero chance that the apostles would watch a movie from some rando. And I thought there was maybe a 1% chance that they might look at a book from some rando. So I sent it to each of the apostles. That's why I turned it into a book. But then everybody else was like, we want the book too. So it's free as a PDF on my website, Joseph Told the Truth. Yeah, josephtoldthetruth.org. And you can go there and watch the movie. You can watch it ad free on Rumble. You can look at the free PDF. So you don't need to buy anything, obviously. But real quick, the Oliver Cowdery, it was Oliver Cowdery, but it wasn't his journal. It was a letter to his brother Warren. And he wrote the letter in 1838. And that was 2 years after, I think 2 years after Fanny and her husband, I think it was Solomon Custer, she got married and moved away from Nauvoo. So she wasn't even around and hadn't been for a couple of years before we get this letter from Oliver to his brother. So when I look at the documents, and there's more to it than that, but I'm convinced that he was going off some rumors that he had heard because there were rumors about Joseph Smith and Fanny. So, and again, maybe there was something, I don't know, but I think it's interesting because we have this story that do you remember the story that we always tell that Joseph and Emma had a tiff? And so he went to translate and he couldn't until he went and made it right with Emma. And then he could translate. Do you know that story that we sometimes tell? Anyway,
I've heard this story. Yeah.
And so I'm thinking it's interesting because if Joseph was doing any of this behind Emma's back and actually like sleeping with or acting inappropriately, even like what would he be able to do if he couldn't even translate after a little misunderstanding or argument with Emma? So I think it speaks to the character of God, whether or not Joseph did this, So by far, it's more important to know that this is not from God, but it's also pretty darn important to know it wasn't from Joseph,
Yeah.
So, okay. So lay it on me.
I got to tell you this. So about a year ago in January, I got a phone call from a lady. She lives here in Kaysville, and she's a descendant of Hiram Smith. And her mother had passed away, and they passed down these family heirlooms. And in those heirlooms were some writings. And so she found these writings and she started reading these writings. Well, it compares similar language to D&C 132.
Okay.
And so she grabs it, she reads it, but it's different than D&C 132. So she goes to her husband, who's a high councilman. She's the Relief Society president. And her husband's like, yeah, you got to turn this into the church. She goes and prays, and it's like, no. She gets the answer, do not turn this into the church. And so then she asks God, well, what do you want me to do? The next day, she's on the internet and she sees a video of me talking about polygamy. And the Spirit says, call him. He'll know what to do. So she reaches out to me, and I live in Farmington, and she says, I have this document. It's very different than D&C 132. It's similar. You can tell it's similar, but you can tell that maybe somebody used something like this to create D&C 132. Would you come over here and chat with me about it? So I came over there. I grabbed my co-host, Trevor. He came over there with me. We saw this document. It's a very old document. And I read it. And she said, I'm freaked out because if this information gets out, who knows what they're going to do? How are they going to handle this? Because it clearly does not talk about polygamy in this document. So I asked her, I said, well, what do you want to do? She said, well, I'll let you transcribe it. So I sat there And you can see these, this is it. I transcribed it. I don't know if you can see the date on 1/23/2025. And after I got done transcribing it, I just said, "Hey, this is your family's document. What would you have me do?" And she said, "Nothing right now." And I said, "Okay." So I didn't talk about it. I just put it away, sat it away. Well, this beautiful sister saw your podcast. She called me. She said, "It's time. This has got to end." So I said, "Well, what would you have me do?" She says, "Will you see if she'll go on a podcast with you? And will you tell this story?" And I've transcribed it. If anybody wants a link to this, we'll post it in, like, I've typed it up. And some of the stuff was hard for me to read. Like it was in cursive, and I was like, there's some words that I was having a hard time. So it's the best I got. And there may have been more that got lost, but it appears to only go to about verse 30 in D&C 132. But I'll post the doc. It has a comparable side by side, but it is devoid of anything associated with or a part of polygamy. But it does talk about eternal families and eternal marriage. And so if anybody wants to read that, and again, I don't know what this sister's going to do. I'm going to release at least this. I asked her, I said, are you open to having people look at provenance and do all that? She said, "I'm praying about it. But I don't want to be persecuted. I don't want to lose my membership, because she's got kids on missions and like all this stuff." And if this is true, this is like breaking like New York Times level type stuff, because I've read this document and this feels true. This feels like Joseph Smith. I even had my ChatGPT do a comparison of this and 132. And it's like, yeah, this sounds like Joseph's voice. 100%. This sounds like Joseph's voice. And it sounds like somebody took this as kind of a template and then added things into it in what we have in D&C 132. And the fact that it came out 8 years after his death, I wonder, and it would be disgusting if this document exists in the church and they have suppressed it and they have not released it and they've kept it even from the historians. And if that's kind of crap is going on, then it tells me that exactly what it says in D&C 101, an enemy hath done this, and that there are tears, and there's something going on. And I'm not the conspiracy theorist kind of guy. Like that's, but I can't deny what's going on here. So I'll send it to you, Karen. You can read it. You can share it with your community. And hopefully this lady will be open to allow you to meet her and see the document and do all that. But I'm just kind of leaving it in her court as it's her document. And she's like almost to the point of like, have you heard of the Mormon Mafia?
Not by that name. Are you talking about like this
deep church?
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Like she's afraid they're going to like come after her and kill her. If they know who she is. Like that's the level of like fear that somehow she has, even though I'm like, I don't know that exists in the church. I don't think it does, but she's just like, and I don't blame her. I mean, when you read this, you'll be filled with the Spirit. And when I read the stuff that I read in 132, I've kind of said, oh, this is true. This doesn't jive. I mean, number one, Isaac never practiced polygamy. So why is that even in there?
Verse 1. Verse 1, we're already up
the gate.
My favorite part is verse 3, where it says, we've got supposedly the Lord saying, okay, Joseph, prepare your heart for this, because this is new doctrine I'm about to reveal unto you. And then a few verses later in 52, he says, now Emma needs to accept all the wives that you've been given. And I'm like, okay, which is it? Are we about to reveal something, or has he already?
Let me read you your verse 1 just to kind of whet people's appetites. It says, verily, thus saith the Lord unto you, my servant Joseph, that inasmuch as you have inquired of me to know the eternal order of marriage, and how the covenants of my servants Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob do understand my law, behold, I am the Lord thy God, and I will answer thee concerning this sacred matter. Therefore, Prepare thy heart to receive and obey the instruction which I am about to give unto you concerning the eternal order of marriage. For all those who receive this law must abide the same.
Interesting. We know that Joseph Smith, in his journal that was kept by Willard Richards, there's an entry on July 12th that says, received a revelation today in the presence of William Clayton and Hiram Smith. So that is in Joseph's legitimate journal. And then 4 days later, on July 16th, we have Joseph teaching about eternal marriage for the first time publicly. So I think it's really clear what his July 12th revelation was. And it definitely wasn't about polygamy. So that was
let me
added.
keep reading this. It says, for behold, I reveal unto you the new and everlasting covenant of eternal marriage. And if ye abide not this covenant of eternal marriage, then ye cannot inherit the fullness of my glory. For no one can reject this covenant and be permitted to receive of my fullness. So anyway, I'll send it to you. And I invite everybody to, read it for yourself. I don't know, pray about it and ask if it's true. If this lady feels like she wants to reveal the original document, she will. And I'm putting it in her court, but we shouldn't base on the words are what matter in everything. Truth is truth is truth is truth. And I've gone through this, and I remember when I first got this, I was literally shaking because there was a quaking at my bones, right? Because I was like, if this is true, and this lady is sincere, I'm telling you, this is like your regular Sister Smith in the Relief Society. And she just stumbled upon this. She was full believing polygamy. She was already and then she got this, and then they were trying to figure out where's this coming from, because it didn't necessarily say DNC 132 or anything. She was just looking for word links, and that's where she put together it's DNC 132. And there's some other writings in there as well that she has and other heirlooms. But yeah, I mean.
So did she allow you to take a picture of the pages?
She wouldn't.
Okay.
She's like, I said, what do you want me to do? Because she's so afraid. And I'm like, she's like, you can transcribe it. We'll go there. And even after I transcribed it, she was like, I'm like, okay, now what would you like me to do? And
she's like, you to do anything yet?
Nothing. And
literally, you have a sample of the writing, though. That would be if she ever agrees to let you take a little picture of some of it.
I think she will after we go ahead and release this. I think she just wants to see what kind of backlash happens here. You know what I'm saying? So it's let's see where the backlash comes from. I mean, I'm releasing this right here, and obviously the New York Times and those want to get involved. I'm going to ask her if she'll allow, and I'll have to create, probably there will be attorneys involved in creating some indemnity and not disclosing her identity and all sorts of stuff that will come with that. But I don't know. Either she is also, she could, and I've thought about this, she could be Mark Hoffmaning me, but I'm telling you, this is not, she showed me her family tree. It ties back through, she comes from a Hiram Smith line. She's not trying to pull one over on me. It's not like Mark Hoffmaning me, but I am cautious about that. And I am careful about that.
Sure.
So,
but the forensics would be very cool to see.
Totally.
To be able to examine the paper and look at the handwriting and things. So,
totally.
Yeah, we'll have to see.
And hopefully she'll do that. We'll see how this goes. But I did what she asked me to do thus far, which was get you on my show, have this conversation with you. We'll make it available so anybody can read it. I have some people that put together kind of a side-by-side so you can see what the differences are. And there's, like I said, there's a couple words that I couldn't I'm guessing on because I just couldn't read it right. I would need some other writings of whoever penned this. I don't know if it was William Clayton or Hiram Smith, but it ended up being passed down in a group of things. And I think somebody said that where's the original 132 now? What do they say about, does the church have the original 132?
Oh, they have, what is it? The Kingsbury copy that they feel was, their story, it doesn't match up. The timeline doesn't match up. I don't go into that a lot in my book because there's so many other things that are far more obvious, make it far more obvious that this was
Gotcha.
not, it wasn't from Joseph. Yeah. But you can go to the church website and see what their claim is about what they have. And that's changed
Gotcha.
over time, and now Jeremy Hoop did some information on the copy and when it might have been made, when the Kingsbury copy may have been made and things like that. So it's just so interesting. And the cool thing would be if we could all be on the same page looking at this open-mindedly with the scholars. Not the scholars just saying, no, it's what we've said, period. The science is settled, so to speak, right? They often say the history is settled on this issue. And that's just not how scholars should be working. They like again, Jeremy Hoop, when he presented some new information, he invited Brian Hales to come, and Brian Hales was just rude back, and he declined the invitation. Let's say that, and that's too bad. There was another scholar, Andrew Ehat, and he did come. So I mean, some scholars are more sincere than others in their quest for history. Um, you know what? Before I forget, sorry, I'm all over the place, but before I forget, the other thing about the Oliver Cowdery letter is that we do have a record. We don't have a record of what the confusion was, what did happen between Joseph and Fanny. But Joseph explained, quote,
I heard there's something about a barn, and then
yeah, that
am I,
so now that
am I just hearing
absolutely
stories?
so
Like,
that one 100% didn't happen. That story about the barn came from William McClellan in 1872. So it's 28 years after Joseph's death. And it's to a letter McClellan wrote to Joseph's son, Joseph III, and said, your mother confided to me that she peeked through and saw Joseph and Fanny in the barn, and she saw the transaction. And she confessed to me, here's what he says. She confessed to me that Joseph was both an adulterer and a polygamist. It was like, are you serious right now? We are going to go with William McClellan was an enemy of the Smiths. He robbed their home while Joseph was imprisoned. And it's like, who prioritizes that over Joseph, Emma, and Hiram, their own words? This one's mind-boggling to me. And Brian Hales, in his book, he introduces McClellan when he tells the story. He says, William McClellan, who had briefly been an apostle, was like, that's the cred. You're not going to mention
right.
that he robbed their house. And also he's on record in the church history as asking the sheriff for permission to flog Joseph while he was in chains. And I mean, this is that's a new level of crazy to me. So no, there was nothing in the barn. That's from William McClellan. But whatever the scrape or affair that Oliver Cowdery is talking about, that he heard about, I'm convinced that he didn't see anything with his own eyes, or he would have explained what he saw with his own eyes. So that's not a thing. But whatever it was, Joseph explained it to the High Council, and the High Council minutes say that Joseph explained, quote, the girl business, and the High Council was satisfied with his explanation. And the kicker to me, and you could say, well, I think the High Council was all on his side, covering up his sins or whatever. But here's the deal. Joseph's later accusers never brought that up. So if that had been a thing, boy, would they have latched onto that. And
Yeah.
they never mentioned it. So that to me is very compelling as well. So yes, I think Oliver was just confused. And so he was excommunicated for these things that he was falsely saying about Joseph Smith. But, as we know, he came back, and it's all good. Everybody makes mistakes, whether it's Joseph or Oliver, whoever, and we just, repent
Yeah.
and move forward.
Thank goodness
So,
for the atonement. Okay,
yeah.
so walk me back to when you started realizing, okay,
Okay.
something's not right here
Right.
with polygamy.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was forever. But when I saw Rob Fotheringham's video, that that was eye-opening. And who knew? I think it's unconscionable that your average member of the church does not know that our original Doctrine and Covenants during Joseph's lifetime called polygamy a crime and specified one man and one wife. And that's just amazing that we don't know that fundamental piece of our history. That's ridiculous. That's when it becomes not just oops on the part of historians, but willful obfuscation of information that's vital. So that was in the 1835 edition of the Doctrine and Covenants, the first one, and also
Yes.
1844 edition. So this is crazy. And DNC 132 was not added to the canon until 1876.
I
So,
find it interesting.
yeah,
I made this note, and a lot of people don't make this. I look for like weird connections. I'm like, okay, so Brigham adds it to the canon in 1876. 11 months later, he's dead. And so I'm just like,
hmm,
And people are like, well, he was old. He was 70. He was in
yeah,
his 70s. Like, I guess that's old for that time, but I'm like, maybe, I remember hear something that if the prophet starts leading people astray, God will take him out. I thought I remember
right.
hearing that from somebody somewhere.
Brigham said that, and also the more famous one is from Wilford Woodruff in the 1890 manifesto. And he says, God would never permit me or any other president of this church to lead astray. If so, he would remove me from my place. And it's always like, that sounds fine at first until you think about it. Like, well, how would he do that? He would have to literally strike you down with lightning while you're saying the thing for anybody to put it together. Because if they said something that was wrong and then he passed away 3 months later from a heart attack, no one would put that together. Or if he struck him down before he said it, you would never know. It makes
Yeah, yeah.
zero sense, right?
But
Zero sense.
he did add it to the canon in 1876, and by 1877 he's dead. So
Yeah, yeah.
you can
Oh,
draw
there's
your own
a
conclusion.
There's well, boy, this is off topic, but it just popped into my head. Jedediah Grant was one of his counselors, and he preached strongly in favor of blood atonement and talked about how we need a place in the public square to shed the blood of people whose sins aren't covered by the atonement. And it's a
So much
crazy,
for the infinite atonement in the Book
no,
of Mormon, huh?
it's so bad. The whole blood atonement thing, the quotes by Brigham, I didn't put any of those in my book. I didn't want to, um,
I
want
understand.
to be sensational in any way.
Yeah,
So
I
anyway,
get
those
that.
were there.
And I
But
think
what I was gonna say is that Jedediah gives this just the most horrific speech around blood atonement, and just I think 11 weeks later he's dead. So yeah, I do understand what you're saying.
yeah, and I think it's important, and I like how you've managed all of this as I've watched your videos. It's like I'm not condemning these guys for doing what they did.
It's not our job.
Yeah, and truthfully, they probably actually thought that they were doing what they want to do. And some of the things that I've seen, and we have to understand there's levels in the telestial kingdom. That's our doctrine, right? There's degrees, right? Is it just me, or did it say something about there's degrees in the celestial kingdom?
In the telestial kingdom, it says as one star differeth from another. So it's like there's bright stars, there's dim stars, there's all a variety in the telestial kingdom. I love that.
There's these degrees in the telestial kingdom. There's these degrees. We call it the 3 degrees of glory. There's degrees in all these different kingdoms. And who am I to say that somebody didn't see a degree of the telestial and they thought it was so beautiful that they thought it was the celestial that they were seeing, and what they saw was polygamy happening, but they were only seeing a degree of the telestial. And I remember somebody said, if you could see the highest degree of the telestial kingdom, you would kill yourself to get there. So I just kind of think of all of these things and say, Satan is so tricky. And if he's the God of this world, which is the telestial realm, wouldn't it be a great trick for him to show somebody something that looks so much more glorious than what they are in, but forget to tell them, oh, that's not even the terrestrial kingdom or the celestial kingdom. That's just
Right.
a higher degree
It's
of the
so
celestial.
interesting. Yeah. And this idea that, that if we say that Joseph told the truth, well, that means that we're saying all these other people are liars. I'm like, I have no idea why they said what they did. I don't know if the women were coerced. I don't know if take that back. I do know the women were coerced because at the very least they were told that this is essential to your exaltation.
Right.
And if you don't accept this, your husband will be kept out of the highest degree of the celestial kingdom. Only polygamists will be the sons of God.
It was the highest
God.
degree of the celestial kingdom. Maybe that's what it was.
So we know that they had all sorts of reasons for saying what they did, whether they believed it, whether they didn't. It's a variety, and you just can't
Right.
say you're saying everyone's lying. I really object to that. In fact, Joseph F. Smith, okay, he, long story short, Joseph Smith's sons, a couple of them came to Utah in 1867, and they were teaching that their father had never practiced or taught polygamy. Okay. And so they were spreading this, and a lot of saints that rang true with them, and they began to leave. So we have Brigham on record, condemning people that are following that family, he said. So Joseph F. Smith proposed, let's just gather up all the evidence for Joseph's polygamy and put this to rest. And then he says he couldn't find any. So that's when he began to collect affidavits from the women. He would write out these affidavits for them. I blank, was married or sealed to Joseph Smith on the blank day of blank, and he would have them sign it. Okay, so Joseph F. Smith would not have said, let's just gather up the evidence and put it to rest if he didn't really believe that there was evidence, if you see what I mean. So he was not one of the, what do you call it, insiders who knew darn well that Joseph Smith never practiced this. He was sort of raised by Brigham and Heber C. Kimball and Brigham Young, and mentored by them. And so I think he genuinely believed them when they taught him that Joseph practiced polygamy. So there's a variety of reasons people did what they did. It's not all just because they're liars. I mean, he did lie later on record, but that's another thing. Anyway, it's not for us to judge them. It's
Totally.
for us to
Totally.
judge right from wrong. So that's
Totally.
that's what's in our court.
Okay, so now let's jump ahead here. You release your movie, you release
Mhm.
your book. What kind of did you start getting pushback from your ecclesiastical authorities?
No. So, so after I watched Rob Fotheringham's video, then other stuff started popping up into my feed. And here was this lady, Michelle Stone, and she had these very long form videos about polygamy each week. So I saw one of hers where she was talking about how her bishop was giving her grief because some stranger had written to him saying she and her minions are leading people out of the church, all these accusations. And so he called her in and sort of called her on the carpet for this. And then it turned out he hadn't even watched her stuff. I was like, who believes like some stranger writing about her without actually watching her stuff himself? That made me very angry. And so I went to her house the next day. I tracked her down on the internet like a weirdo stalker and went to her house and just gave her a hug. And we talked for 40 minutes. So months later, I saw she was having some trouble uploading some of her videos. And I said, do you need help, editing or uploading? And she took me up on that. So I helped her ever since. So I helped her with the last half of all her videos before she was invited to take them down or face church discipline. That was much earlier this year. Okay, so meanwhile, as I'm helping her, just some of the things that she would say and some of the things that Jeremy Hoop would say, and Rob Fotheringham and Whitney Horning and Gwendolyn Wine, all these excellent scholars doing this independent research. Some of them had really, really important, I thought, nuggets that were so compelling that needed to be gathered into one place. So that's why I did my video, and I just laid out. It was funny. So many things that could have been included. So I had little snippets of paper with subjects on them. Like it would say Heber C. Kimball, where he said that when he got to the next life, if his wives didn't follow him to the next life, Joseph Smith would say, "That's okay. Here are thousands of wives. Have all you want." Crazy things like that. That I thought these are really important for people to know that these guys said these things. So I compiled all this and all the documentation that I thought was the most important into a 2-hour documentary. So that's how that started. And so I published that on October 10th of last year, 2024. And that lasted a year without me hearing a word from any of my ecclesiastical leaders. And I'm
Okay.
very vocal at church. I'm never in anyone's face. I really try not to be shoving it down anyone's throat, but I do talk about it whenever it comes up. And I never talk quietly. I never talk conspiratorially. I never throw Brigham under the bus or anything like that. I just say, do you guys know what the Joseph Smith papers are? Do you know that Joseph taught against polygamy every time? It's such good news, you guys. And some would kind of get all nervous and sort of deer in the headlights. And in that case, I was just crank it back because I don't need, to shove this on anybody. But other people would be like, really? But wait, you see the pictures of his wives at the Church History Museum? And I'd say, yeah. But it turns out none of those wives said a single word during his whole lifetime. That was all from like 25 years after his death that they even claimed that. Really? So they'd be interested. So we'd either invite them over to the house to watch the movie, or I'd give them a link to it or whatever they wanted. So I'm very vocal about it all the time. But I never heard anything from my stake president or something until exactly a year later. So on the 1-year anniversary of publishing my movie, October 10th of this year, I went and watched the Helmut Hubner movie.
Great
Treason.
movie. I had the director and the writer actually on Zion Media.
Oh, you did? Oh, I didn't see
Yeah.
that one. Okay,
It was so awesome. And then we went to it. I went to it, and I just got chills thinking about it, because I kind of feel like you, thank goodness, you're doing that same thing. You're following it
on a smaller scale. Mm-hmm.
But it's so great because we live in a time where they're not going to burn us at the stake like they did at Benedict. They're not going to shoot physical arrows at us like they did with Samuel the Lamanite. And they're definitely not nailing us to a cross like they did with Christ. The worst thing they can do to us is persecute us in the ways through words, or through removing you, or through throwing you out of the synagogue, or whatever, but they can't hurt you physically. And when you think about that story, with Truth and Treason, that's only what, 75 years ago or so, where that was still a thing, where we lived in a society that for your beliefs and your zeal or whatever, you could just be like killed, imprisoned. So
it was so painful. It's a hard one to watch, but like you say, it's, watching that was a very strong message from God to me. I could feel it, and it was significant that it was on the 1-year anniversary of my video. That was unmistakable. His message to me was like, this kid was tortured and executed for standing up for the truth. So no, you're not going to try to protect your membership or something like that, and back down from the truth. So the next day, for the first time, I get a text, the stake president would like to meet with you. And I was like, wow, that's pretty cool that I got that, that God prepared me like that very clearly. So I went in and visited with him on Sunday, and we had ultimately 3 visits. They were very congenial, very respectful. He listened. He never cut me off. He cut my sentences off. We didn't argue with each other. He would ask questions and then listen. He would refer back to things I had said in a previous interview. So I know he was listening, and he really wanted to do what was right. And to him, protecting the church's current position was it was paramount. So, from the very first interview, he said, this isn't about figuring out what's true and what's not true, because history is hard, but it's about whether what you're promoting aligns with the church's teachings. So I stopped him there and said, I would actually disagree that it's the church's teachings. It's the historians' teachings that they give to the brethren. It's not the other way around. And now there's a lot of differing opinions on how much the brethren have looked into this themselves. I still think that a lot of them, at least, have not. I think they just trust the historians. Like I said, the historians are trusting the historians. So the odds that many of the brethren have taken the time.
We should maybe trust the Holy Ghost.
Yeah, you might want to
that might be
do
a
that
good
instead. Or and by study and by faith, of course, but look into the original documents yourself before you just trust what is said about the documents, because they're wholly inaccurate. So So that's that when that was on the table where it was like, this isn't about figuring out what's true. And I was like, okay, well, for me, it's all about truth because to me, Christ says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. It is literally one of the titles he gives himself. So to me, they're synonymous, truth and Christ. So if you put the truth aside for any reason, you're putting him aside. And for me, he is at the top. So truth is at the top. So
Totally. Truth above
we just,
all.
yeah, and we understood each other. I mean, I would explain to him, I can't abide the horrible stories we tell about beautiful, faithful Emma. She, in our, in the version, in the saints book and the gospel talk, everywhere that the historians talk about Emma, she was a lunatic, she was a thorn in Joseph's side. She finally supposedly agreed to get on board with polygamy briefly and agreed to let him marry two sisters at once, which is not the way anyone would dip their toe into the polygamy waters, by the way. And then by the end of that night, she was livid again and chased the sisters out of the home. So she's just this bipolar, crazy lady, and it's so sad. And she stood in the way of Joseph keeping this commandment from the angel, and it's ludicrous and it's insulting and it's so almost borderline blasphemous because Emma was chosen by God to be Joseph's companion. He could not get the plates without her. And she was a pillar of this restoration just as much as Joseph was. And she suffered everything, every loss that you can imagine. And she was faithful and stalwart, and he loved her for it. That they had a beautiful, exemplary marriage. So this is so important to exonerate all of them, Joseph, Emma, and Hiram, from the horrible things we say about them. They didn't happen, and we need to look into it. We owe them that.
Well, I would love to do even just on this channel, historical deep dive on this channel as a way for me to learn. That's why I love doing these podcasts because I get to learn so much. I want to move on to ultimately they made the decision to excommunicate you. Now you probably had the option to withdraw, but before the show you said, I wanted that to stand as the record that you wanted to be in the church. And you're probably still going. I really don't know what really changes, to be honest. What, you don't hold a calling? Like, thank goodness. I don't want to hold a calling. I'm busy enough with a podcast.
Wipes away tears. No, I'm just kidding. So yeah, my Relief Society president was like, can't you just set this aside? Now that you've sort of got the ball rolling, can't you just set it aside and just stay in the church? She said, because I need you as a ministering sister, for instance. And I said, I'm right here. If someone needs something, you call me and I'll go do it. It's okay. I do not need to be on a piece of paper. I don't need to have this.
You commanded in all things. Listen, I'm ministering all day, every day. I go to the gas station. Drea will tell you. She's rolled with me. Like, I'm ministering, like full-time ministering. I'm taking phone calls from guys that are struggling with this, that, or the other. I'm ministering. I don't have just one or two ministering families. I got like, I don't know, 19,500 people that I'm ministering to right now. I know you got a channel as well. And so this idea of not being able to minister is like, come on, guys, seriously, like, what are we doing down here?
And I think it's great. Karen shared on her channel something at the end of her video. Will you tell us what happened the next day? Like, it was just funny.
It was really funny because so they excommunicated me on Friday, and just by a coincidence, ? I was scheduled to clean the building the next day. So I did that. And then I helped somebody move. So I was like, I'm still Mormon. That's the real mystery.
Yeah.
But it was funny. I thought Heavenly Father.
There's a whole new category that's being created right now. You got the Exmos, you got those that are a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and then you're going to have this whole new category called still Mormon. Regardless, I'm still Mormon. And they'll be like, oh yeah, that's the category. They're still Mormon. That they come to church, they do everything that they're supposed to do. They still take the sacrament, even though they're technically, like, who's going to stop you from taking the sacrament? But they're still Mormon. I mean, until they trespass you and say that you can't come to the synagogue, which I guess they could do that as well. But even then, you're still Mormon. And I think there's a whole new category. Somebody told me that the church is hiring 600 influencers, and they're going to train them to be apologists for the church. And somebody told me that they are going to go after and target all of the other non-called YouTubers and social media influencers that are not being paid by the church. And this is just getting ridiculous around here. Like, if any of this is true, and if this is going on, like, stop. Whoever is making these calls at the church, like, come on, guys. This is not going to help the cause. This is only going to hurt the cause. And it only is going to create the remnants rising, and there is nothing that anybody can do about it. Period. The end. We know what the scriptures say. We know how Zion's going to be redeemed. Go read Doctrine and Covenants section 101, start in verse 43. I'll if you want to know what's going to happen, just go read the scriptures. This isn't Baldwin or Karen telling you what to do here. Isaiah's laid it out. Daniel's laid it out. The Book of Mormon's laid it out, and Joseph laid it out. So
forward, it's the truth moves forward. Something about a puny arm and the Mississippi River, if I recall, it's going to move forward, and no one can, you can't put it back. It's truth, and when it comes out, it's really hard to untruth it. It's out now. Yes, our original scriptures said this. Yes, Joseph denied it every time he talked about it. He condemned polygamy. This isn't going away. That's not going to change. You can refuse that information or ignore it, or say, I prioritize these much later accounts over Joseph and Emma and Hiram. You're entitled to do that, but you can't say they don't exist. And so it's been awesome. And, we've been in our word for 20, or at least in this area, for 27 years. And I'm very open about this, did you hear what happened? This is the craziest thing, because I don't want anyone hearing that I've been excommunicated and think, what, did she kill somebody? So they're going to know what this was about.
Transparency is a superpower, Karen.
Yeah, it really is. So, when I explain that I've been excommunicated, their reaction isn't, oh my goodness, what did she really do? Their reaction is, what? I thought that was for bad people. Because they know us. And when I tell them why, it's just like, what? I said, and I explain, it's not because I believe Joseph told the truth. That's been made clear. It's that I'm very public about it. And of course, I am the most public person that I know about this message, because I have the video and I have the website that points you to the video and gives you all the links to all this information. And then we actually have a billboard that we put up somewhere along I-15 in Utah here, somewhere, like every Friday. And so it's very public. We have bumper stickers, we have t-shirts. So any way we can, just like you're saying, like, you're always ministering, you're always trying to spread this word. A window salesman can't come to my door without leaving with this information. Like, one kid was, I don't know, selling bug spray for the lawn treatment, and he happened to mention, I can't remember if I asked him, I don't know what I asked him, but he said that he was getting married soon. And I said, oh, I said, oh, are you LDS? And he says, well, I used to be, and my wife is, or something. And I said, well, you guys need this. So I gave him a card to direct him to the movie. He was excited to see that. Yeah. And they're always excited to see it. So,
well, I want to get your reaction on a dream that was sent to me this week. Now, his name's Dan. He doesn't want me to give his last name. But I believe personally we're in Joel 2:28, where people are going to start getting dreams and visions. This is a young man. He goes to BYU. He's a returned missionary. He's in their master's program. And he frantically messaged me. He watches Zion Media, and he's just like, I had this dream. It was very vivid. I was told I need to give it to you. And he laid it out. So I would just want to read it.
Do you remember what day he had the dream? I feel like it was the 10th.
I can tell you.
I'm pretty sure it was the 9th, 10th, or 11th of December.
I mean, it was very, very recent. I'm just let me scroll through my text messages. It was, looks like, I don't know, dude, this guy, like, if you saw how many text messages I get from old Dan, it's like unbelievable. I'm not even, this is after 3 days. So So I don't know. I don't know. It was the last,
I think it was the 10th.
the last couple of days, like probably 5 days ago or so. Today's December 15th. So I'm going to read the dream. It says, I was in the conference center and I saw Elder Holland speaking. Everyone knew that he was going to say something important and became nervous and extremely quiet. He said, there's a great evil that has come among the house of Israel. It has always been with us. He said this great evil was from false gods of lands that we do not dwell in and their wicked idolatry. He said that David and Solomon erred greatly in practicing the idolatry of his wives who came from foreign lands. The new and everlasting covenant was designed to absolve and rebuke any previous arrangements with false or foreign gods. It was designed to be both new and everlasting. Most false gods believe that if a younger or more attractive woman comes along, that they are entitled to that woman. He then said that many of the gods of the Norse pantheon were still with us today and created a great evil amongst us. That being the superiority of certain people of Northern European descent compared to others. The priesthood ban, and Andrea, you'll have to scroll because you control this. The priesthood ban happened due to the spiritual influence of these beings. Brigham Young instituted it because he could not fathom the idea that a black man could have more wives than one. Only whites ever practiced plural marriage in this church, and many of the women were younger immigrants who came over from Denmark. Mind you, this is this guy's dream. The priesthood ban was wrong, and we recognize the mistakes made by earlier church leaders to not only establish it, but to enforce it over its 126-year period. However, the mistake of plural marriage is 6 times more costly to our church and establishing the cause of Zion than the priesthood ban was. Polygamy has a long practice that goes back to the earliest secret combinations. Some women wanted to get gain by being with a man who had more material success. Other men were willing to kill their brothers in order to receive their wives. Wherever polygamy is practiced, war remains the societal norm. The curse of Cain is unfortunately intertwined with the practice of plural marriage. What is the great sin here if this is a sacrifice from God? I'll tell you what it is. Imagine a happy family with several kids and a happy father and mother. The father notices a new woman in town who's looking to have what the mother has. She is jealous. The younger woman enters into a secret affair and pact that she will be the new woman and that she will drive the old family out. As a church, we've discussed the trials of the 1880s many times. The greater trial that we have not talked about how cruelly challenging the 1890s and the 1900s were for our people. The large majority of those of us who had polygamous ancestors only had 2 wives. The younger wife was almost always prettier and almost always had more attention from the husband. After the manifesto, the older man was very, very rarely with the wife of his youth. He was with the new woman. These older women were ignored. Children from these marriages were often also ignored in their wards. Many of these children left Utah and went to other places. Imagine the heartbreak. Oops, you went too far. Imagine the heartbreak of being with the same man for 40 years, and then all of a sudden you're no longer ever with your husband ever again. He never acknowledges you, nor many children. Your family is estranged. This is a tale as old as time. It happened in the house of Israel, and it is its oldest curse. I tell you from the very bottom of my heart that I know that God would not do that. Patricia is my wife. This is literally as though like Elder Holland is saying this in his dream. And he was like, in his frantic message to me, it's like he had it down, like this guy had it memorized. Its oldest curse. Patricia is my wife and will always be my wife. There is no woman who can ever replace her, probably not hear her. Up until this point, there has always been a member of the First Presidency or Quorum of the 12 who has been sealed to more than one woman. That is no longer the case. So that's interesting in his dream because that means somebody is no longer around anymore. When I was growing up, I heard awful stories about polygamy back then and now. As an apostle, I heard terrifying stories from apostates of our church. It is a most wicked and evil practice of evil practices. Growing up, I was always terrified of certain sections of Snow Canyon. I also heard rumors about paranormal experiences that happened on the Ute Reservation in Duchesne County. These 2 Native American tribes were a violent people. They practiced polygamy. The cries of their women still curse this land. People say that polygamy is done to expand fertility, then why is it these groups on average have less children? It is due to violence, jealousy, and idolatry. If this land is to be fertile and abundant, we must repent of this most grievous sin. And then he quotes here, and I'll just buzz through this. He quotes Jacob chapter 5, verse 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29. You can go and read that in your Book of Mormon. Now, Elder Holland spoke of many other things regarding this great evil that had come upon us. Then in my dream, I saw a man named Christian Asinia. In real life, he's a Mormon neo-Nazi. I'm not joking. He had just come from a camp out in the Uinta Mountains. There were 6 men and 6 women. And they were there for a week. Every night they would rotate wives and claim this was done for spiritual reasons. They would also partake in various different psychedelic drugs each night. They believed that Christ was the same being as Odin. Now in this dream, Christian was so enraged at President Holland that he had with him a revolver with 6 bullets. He fired all 6 of them at him, and all of them missed. A security guard shot him immediately. The crowd didn't leave, though, and stay still. Elder Holland then said that no weapon of harm could be used against him and didn't even flinch. However, 1 bullet came close and grazed his hair. He said that likewise 1 out of 6 church members would leave due to the following announcement. So he's seeing that he's going to make an announcement in here, and 1 out of every 6 would leave. There will be no more plural sealings. Joseph Smith is married to but 1 wife, Emma. For family history and temple recordings, we will seal each person to their first spouse. Men who are living, who are sealed to more than 1 woman, have 6 months to decide who they will be sealed to for eternity. For those that leave, we have already made accommodations in Missouri. So there will be some people heading back to Missouri, it sounds like. You will find it to be a land of woe and misery. We have also assisted the remaining polygamous groups to also meet there. Many of the men who will go will be incels. I don't even know what that is. Who will struggle to find 1 wife, let alone many. There will be a large number of you gathered there, but unfortunately, due to future geopolitical struggles and challenges, you'll all be destroyed. Missouri will be made desolate, just like it was in the Civil War, mere years after persecuting the saints. Then in my dream, he bore powerful testimony, revealing new truths about the new and everlasting covenant. He said that incestuous bonds needed to be destroyed. He said that degenerate, voyeurs, and lustful gods no longer have power over this people. We must only worship the true God of Israel. He said that the Lord of hosts told him these things and that he will never, ever, ever be subjected to this sin no more. He said that unfortunately Joseph Smith had been deceived and provided a reasonable documentation that he had been deceived from William Marks. I don't know what that means. He said that the angel with the flaming sword came directly from the whore of Babylon. He provided new evidence that the church hasn't released, the corroborated statements. He said that the land of Utah would now be blessed and that beyond the 6 generations, we would finally heal from this great wickedness. The Uintas would be smoothed out and brought 2,000 feet lower. They would bring forth healing waters. It would no longer be cursed. The Uinta Basin would see its land heal and no longer be cursed. It would see a fruitful lake around the Green River. The Green River range cliffs would arise 6,000 feet higher and would be the new highest range in Utah. Finally, he said that we needed to overcome our idolatry and that the Lord is amongst us again as a people. We are in the midst of him and he will establish Zion. We have been cursed and now we shall be blessed in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen. So anyways, thoughts? I mean, this is just a guy who watches my channel that sent me this. I mean, that's a lot. And again, he could be making it up for all I know. But he claims this dream, he texted me literally, it was like 4:00 in the morning. And it was just text. And he was kind of like shaken. And then he was like, what's going on with me? Like, what's happening? So anyways,
I mean,
thoughts, Karen?
at the very least, like, thank goodness in his subconscious and now his conscious mind, polygamy is not okay, right? It needs to be, like, at the very least, he understands that it needs to go away and it needs to stop being part of our doctrine. And it is so damaging. So that's, when people have dreams like these things, I always take them at least at face value, where that's what this person is thinking, that's what's on their mind. And that's a good thing. Like, the more it spreads, and the more people realize that polygamy was never of God. Do you guys know a couple weeks ago, the Faith Matters group, they're usually pretty apologists, right? And they had a week of talking about polygamy. So this is Patrick Mason, who holds one of the highest historical positions in the church. He's the Leonard Arrington Chair of Mormon History at USU or something, and a very prominent member. And he goes around doing firesides, and newspapers quote him all the time. He's considered an expert. Carol Lynn Pearson, the beloved.
Oh, she's awesome. I've talked to her. I've read her book.
Yeah, it's the things in her book. She still believes Joseph did it, because I don't think she's ever looked at the original documents. She was given boxes full of information on Joseph Smith, but it was all other
What is
people.
she believes that he did it, was deceived, made the mistake, and then
Yeah, that's the thing, that
worked to correct it or something like that. That's
I don't know
generally
if she
what
thinks he worked to correct it, but she does believe that he was wrong. So here's the deal. And Bethany Spalding and Bill Turnbull, all these people, not everybody during that whole week, but the vast majority, all believe that polygamy was not of God, that it was an error. And unfortunately, they believe that Joseph was in error for practicing it, and that Brigham Young was. And it's interesting that that's kind of okay to say publicly. It's a step forward. Again, the most important thing is to understand it wasn't of God, and it's not of God. And we don't need to wonder if he's going to command us to do this capriciously sometime again, right? Like he supposedly did for these 38 years in Utah. But still believing that Joseph did it and trying to reconcile that, I just can't imagine what a damaging narrative this is. That here Joseph, slept with a teenager, at least one, and slept with other men's wives and married women behind Emma's back. And he did all this without the sanction of God. As hard as our current narrative is, I feel like people are going to be elbowing each other for the exit door at this point, if this one takes hold. So it's really horrible. And we just need this true narrative to come out and spread, that it's not of God, but it also wasn't from Joseph either. And this is not someone that God chooses for his servant. And I keep hearing, well, you can't assume prophets are perfect. And I'm like, perfect? Having 35 wives, that's not imperfect. That is straight up wicked. If my husband was a tenth of that imperfect, we would have been divorced ages ago, right? That's not putting someone on a pedestal to say, I don't think you should have dozens of wives behind your wife's back. Like, there's a difference between I made a mistake and I'm just doing wicked things. Those are totally different. And Joseph did not do wicked things. Yes, he made mistakes. Don't get me started on the Kirtland Safety Society. What a disaster that was, in my opinion, and other mistakes. But no, he didn't act wickedly, and he didn't do any of these things that we accuse him of. Every single account that he did this from these women is 25 to 60 years after his death. That is absurd. No historian would ever prioritize late testimony like that above contemporaneous testimony, except in this case. It is so strange. No angel came to him. The first reports of that, when people ask me about, what about the angel with the flaming sword or the drawn sword?
Yeah, I've heard that story like multiple times from multiple people.
Gosh.
I thought,
but
yeah.
And I refer them, people are like, what do I tell them? I said, give them Brian Hales's article. The church, he's not a historian. He's a retired anesthesiologist. He's not credentialed, but the church leans heavily on him.
Yeah, I had him on my podcast.
Oh, have you?
Yeah.
Well, Michelle Stone had him on, and she wanted to talk about the documents. And all he did was come with a PowerPoint presentation telling her that she is on the road to apostasy. So he just didn't want to talk about the actual documents. But anyway, his article on the angel with the sword is great. Just go read that. It's okay. He shows you a chart at the end of when this story came about, and it wasn't for years after Joseph's death. Joseph never recorded anything, and since when did Joseph tells us about his angelic visitations, and this nameless angel that came to him no one talked about it until years after Joseph's death. No one ever claimed it during his lifetime. It's so bogus.
Well, Karen, thank you so much. This has been awesome. And for me, like I said, this subject for me is in response to John 17:3. For this is life eternal, that they might know thee, the only true God, and Jesus Christ, whom thou hast sent. And if it means eternal life to know God, for me, my quest was, is God a polygamist? Because I grew up believing that God had multiple wives, because that's the highest degree of exaltation. And of course, God has achieved that. And I had that narrative in my mind, and I had to find out for myself through my own research and through revelation if God was a polygamist. And what I found out is my God is not a polygamist. Now, are there other gods out there that are polygamists? Probably. D&C 121 says there's a day when nothing shall be withheld from them, whether there be one gods or many gods, it shall be made manifest. And so maybe we're entering into that day. And for me, it's more important that the sons of Levi need to be purified. And if you have that in your mindscape, that you think that you're going to end up with 7 baddies after this, you can't hold space to love the one that you have. And I'm telling you, the reason why we have problems in the church related to, I don't know if you knew this, Karen, but did you know Utah holds the #1 spot for how do I know if I'm gay in Google?
Oh, wow.
And I'm telling you, because of this narrative, it creates this weird ideology about sex and all sorts of things. And so we have to eliminate that. We have to love our wife, cleave unto her and none else. And I'm telling you, I think if you have that ideology in there, you probably also have a problem with pornography. And
Yes.
and
Oh,
and
I
I think
had
there's a correlation there.
There really is. I have a friend who's a now ex-husband, had a terrible porn problem, and it was ruining their marriage. But at one point he said, "Well, I don't see what the difference is. We're going to eventually," he says, "I don't
Right.
see what the big deal is. Eventually, we're gonna have more women in our marriage anyway, so what's the difference?" To which, look at Drea, to which I would say, "You're right, there's no difference, and number 2, they're both very, very wrong." And when you quote, D&C 42, as you just did, where it says, "Cleave unto thou shalt love thy wife with all thy heart, and cleave unto her and none else." I made a little one-frame cartoon, and it's this guy, it's kind of from your perspective as if you're one of his wives, and you're at the bedroom door where he's standing in the doorway, and you can see this other woman in the bed behind him, and he's telling you, "Oh, hey, babe, can I cleave unto you and none else tomorrow night? I'm cleaving unto her and none else tonight."
Geez.
I mean, that is
Yeah.
where we're at. It's insane. And when you say John 17:3, that is spot on. Joseph Smith said that you can't have faith. You can't really have faith unless you understand the the character, perfections, and attributes of God.
That's right.
That's what this is about. When
And
people say, "What does it matter?" It matters. We can't know him and have
eternal life,
understanding
Karen,
him.
it's eternal life. And that's why I'm like,
Important.
I'm like, let's set on this shelf for just a time right now, not who introduced it. Let's step back all the way from that, and let's first decide if polygamy is celestial and if God is a polygamist. And then let's work our way from there. Because if you think that God's a polygamist, you'll never come to the point that Joseph didn't practice polygamy. So you can't even get to that stage. You have to believe that your God, you have to connect to your God. You got to find out if your God is a polygamist. You got to be careful, because you might be down here and you might belong to another God. I hate to tell you that, but there's a lot of crap going on around here, and a lot of people don't know where they actually came from. And so there's a reason why the Israelites were always like, our God and your God, because they understood this back then. And you are more than welcome to be adopted into my God's family. He adopts people all the time. And so you can be adopted in, but make sure that if you're asking, you're also asking the right God, the God of Israel, the God that the Lord God Jehovah. Ask him. Make sure you're asking the right God before you start asking if God's a polygamist, because you might get the wrong answer because you're listening to the wrong God. So this is complicated down here. Don't get me started on this, but
Thank
Um,
you, Shane. Thank
yeah.
you for all that you're doing to bring light to this. I just appreciate it so much. The work that I've done and others have done doesn't mean much if people aren't sharing it and talking about it and examining it. So I just appreciate you so much.
Well, Karen, you are the modern day, what's his name? Hubner? Did I say that
Oh
right?
gosh, I don't deserve that at all.
But
But
to it,
yeah, we can also we
to
can
a
just
degree,
yeah, we
to a
could
degree,
just
you are like
appreciate
unto,
this example
yeah,
and strive to
you're,
stand up for truth.
you're setting that example. And I remind people this all the time. I'm not doing this for church. This isn't about religion. I do this because this is about truth. And
Thank
I want truth above all, truth over everything. I don't care about church. I don't care about religion. I care about truth at the end of the day. And I care about if a church can find truth, that's awesome. And there are many churches out there that have lots of truth. And I have found that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has more truth than everybody else. But that doesn't mean that, number one, they have a lock on truth. And that also doesn't mean that the narratives they're spinning or whatever their historians are saying are also truth. And so we need to get down to the truth. And we do have an ongoing restoration. Let me remind you all out there that they've been talking about this ongoing restoration. If we had all the truth, why do we need to have an ongoing restoration? Clearly, there's some issues here, and I hear what they're saying. And I'm truth above all. And
love
I
it.
love being Mormon. Listen, I was adopted by a Mormon family. It was divine, and those are my roots, and those are my people, even though my heritage and blood comes from another nation. So with
Absolutely.
all of that said, Karen, thank you so much for coming in. Hey, listen, we are gathering. That's right. Zion Media is gathering. We're gathering a lot. We had such a huge response for our gathering down at Zion's National that we got a third house. We sold out of the first house, 36 people in 2 or 3 days. So we opened up another house. We sold out of that. We're anticipating having over 100 people, and I'm so stoked. My wife, not so stoked because we are providing food for everybody down there. And she's looking at me going like, how are we going to do this? I'm like, babe, if Jesus can feed 5,000, we can feed 100. Like, we can do this. We got Costco. He didn't even have Costco, and he figured it out. So I'm confident we'll do it. It's going to be amazing. It's going to be, I mean, I'm so excited. I'm so excited. So, hey, sign up, come, gather, meet. I got musicians coming. They're going to be playing and singing songs. I've got Keith Redford coming. I've got people that have been on my podcast. Maybe Karen will look, and maybe Karen will come down. Maybe we can get Karen to talk about this stuff. But hey, come and gather with us. We are gathering with people that aren't just Latter-day Saints. We're gathering with people that I know some people, they've withdrawn their record. I know some people that they've been excommunicated. I know some people that are from another branch. But the majority of the people are members of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. But in these gatherings, here's what we're focused on. We love the gospel of Jesus Christ, number one. And Jesus Christ, we are disciples of him, and we will follow him to the ends of hell and back. And we believe that Joseph Smith's a prophet of God, and we believe that the Book of Mormon is the word of God. And we believe there is a great restoration that happened. We believe Joseph Smith is the dispensational head. And those are all the things. And I tell people, let's agree on those things. We can set aside the differences and all of that other stuff. But this is about gathering. And this is about all of the branches, all of the believers gathering together. And I think it says somewhere that we believe in the literal gathering. If you think just going to your ward building and you're gathering, that's not what it actually means. That can be part of it, but that's not what it means. These gatherings are awesome. So come with us. We have 6 spots available still for Mexico. Now that's a gathering you don't want to miss. I freaking love Mexico. It was amazing. We have how many?
I thought we had 3 spots left for Mexico.
Well, we have 3 spots, but couples.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Sorry.
So 6 people, 3 bungalows left. So anyways, it's going to be awesome. Come join us, come gather with us. Karen, thank you so much for coming on. You are a gem, a jewel, as the scriptures put it. Thank you for standing up for truth. I will remind everybody this statement from our dear friend, Joseph Smith. He says, the standard of truth has been erected. No unhallowed hand will stop this work from progressing. Persecution may rage, mobs may combine, armies may assemble, calamity may defame, but the truth of God, it will go forth boldly, nobly, and independent until it has penetrated every continent, visited every clime, sounded in every ear, and the great Jehovah shall say, the work is done. And we are living in that day, and that truth is coming forth. And this topic needs to be resolved. So I am calling upon all of you. Listen, I got analysts that watch my show. Here's the statement that I'm asking for from the brethren. And here's what I'm seeking for as a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Is God a polygamist? I want a revelation on that. I want an understanding if our God, the God of Israel, is a polygamist. I want an understanding and I want clarity so that men can understand what is going to happen at the highest degrees of the celestial kingdom. And I want a revelation on that. If you're interested in this document, it'll be posted in the description. And let me know your thoughts. And hopefully this beautiful sister that has the original will have the faith and courage to release it. But this is a start. So Karen, thank you so much for joining us. Drea, thank you for hopping on here and organizing everything. For myself, I'm Shane Baldwin. Thanks for tuning in to Zion Media, and we'll see you guys all next time.